Okay, so this is a live session of the Grafton Communal Water Committee meeting. My name is Yolanda Melbourne. I'm the deputy clerk, and I will be taking roll call at this point in time. The current attendees at the meeting, John Rorabeck, Liam Craig, Pat Kemp, Joan Stover, Grit Cole, Yolanda Melbourne, myself, Nicole Leach-Bahoon, Adam Taggart. Oh, actually, I have to go to my viewing screen. Bruce Heitkamp, Grant Parkinson. I believe that's everyone in attendance. For regrets, we have Councillor Greg Booth, Keith McDonald, and Larry Spierka. We may now proceed. Oh, just make sure your microphones are on, please.
Turn on my mic. Thank you, Deputy Clerk. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 3:06. I'll begin the meeting today with the territorial land acknowledgement. Before our meeting gets underway, I would like to formally recognize the traditional keepers of this land and specifically our neighbors of the Alderville First Nations with a formal territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the township of Alma-Calderman is located on the Mississauga and Anishinaabe territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe. The township of Alma-Calderman respectfully acknowledges that the Mississauga Nation are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. I'd like to call your attention to item 3, approval of the June 1st, 2023 agenda. Be it resolved that the agenda for the June 1st, 2023 meeting of the Grafton Communal Water System Committee be approved as circulated. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Grit and Liam, thank you. All in favor? Carried. Next, we have item number 4, approval of the minutes of March 15th, 2023 Grafton Communal Water Committee meeting. Be it resolved that the minutes of the March 15th, 2023 Grafton Communal Water Committee meeting be approved. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Thank you. Have Liam moved it and John seconded it, and we now have it on the floor for discussion.
Thank you. Hopefully I've got this right. Page 27 of 48. Is that correct?
Of the March 15th meeting?
Yes. Where we've got exemptions for health reasons.
Yes.
It says fluoride. We don't have fluoride.
Okay.
Hmm?
It's not in the minutes.
Then it's part of the agenda package.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll go back to the minutes of the March 15th meeting.
Yep.
Does anybody have anything else that they would like to discuss with that meeting? Seeing none, I'll call in favor, call and vote, all in favor, carried. So then that brings us to business arising. So I think we're clear on that. We don't have any business for that, do we?
No, it's just, as I said, I think it should be, the word fluoride should be struck from
So when we get to that report, we'll bring that up. Thank you.
Thanks.
So now we are on item number 6. We have a report from Nicole Leach Benham, Treasurer, dated June 1st, 2023. Read the draft water budget. Nicole, do you wish to speak to your report?
I think most of the details, we did bring the water budget forward at the last water meeting, and a few changes have been made based on discussion during that meeting, which I've detailed in my report. So I would leave it open if anyone has any questions, and I would be happy to answer those and go from there.
Does anyone have any questions with Nicole's report? Go ahead, Liam.
Thank you. Nicole, it's not so much questions. I'm trying to still get my head around all the financial reports concerning this committee. And especially with the project of a new wellhead. And there's been talk about we can fund the whole thing through reserves. And one of the issues I'm struggling with is if we do that, does that deplete our reserves for any further contingencies that may arise? Because it's a lot of money.
I mean, that's always a concern. So really, I'm just looking at this year's budget. And when you're talking about the wellhead, I don't recall what the value of that is. I know the big thing that was arising within the 2023 budget is just the well project itself being funded and ensuring that that's accounted for. I know that initially it was talked about funding it from a debenture. I'm not convinced that that's necessary at this point. I mean, we can definitely reevaluate that as we're approaching the 2024 budget. But I think cash flow wise, knowing that provincial and federal funding are covering the majority of it, it's just ensuring that we have the cash flow until that money comes in from the province and from the feds. As far as the wellhead goes, I know most of the other line items within the water budget. I did consult with Lakefront Utilities, so I don't know that that's something maybe Larry would have to speak to as far as what the value of those things are and what he's incorporated. Where other than that, the water study that was produced in 2020 is where all the revenue has come from.
Go ahead, Grit.
To add to that, we had actually in that 2020 water study, the what money had been budgeted for paying of the well, because the first time round they were not successful in their bid. So the money's already in there paying for the well. So I think we should be having lots of reserves coming along because it's already been built in. So I think we'll continue to build our reserves. Is that correct, Nicole?
So one thing I think the point you're trying to make is when the water study was done, things like the debenture were worked into that. So the cost of the interest for that would have been an expense. When we don't, any savings we have along the way go back into the water reserves. Sorry about that. Each year. So any surplus, it doesn't disappear. It definitely goes back into the reserves. So you should be building your reserves, not depleting them, as long as that's the case.
Thank you. It's just a follow up. Um, I didn't have a copy of the 2020 report until just last week, so I'm still digesting it. But the concerns are, I've maybe not so much this committee, but many municipalities have a habit of depleting the reserves. So I'd like to make sure, especially when you've got an asset that's under the ground that you can't readily look at and say, oh yeah, that looks great. Um, we have to rely on tests being done. We have to rely on so much and can be surprised significantly once a problem is identified. So I just like to have assurances that we're in good shape.
Go ahead, Grit.
Okay, so I do have a question through you, Chair, to Nicole. I have to come back to the water modeling study that's going to be done. And nothing has been determined as to how we're going to recoup those costs of that water modeling study that should be passed on to developments, new developments. Shouldn't be the existing taxpayers paying for that. We already paid for it when we built and bought and all those things. So new development coming forward should really be paying for that, so that it's coming out of development charges. Okay, but how are we going to recoup that from the developers? Because based on the number of developments coming in, if we were following the way Coburg did it, we wouldn't even recoup half of what we've got, what we're paying for it.
Go ahead, Nicole.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Stover. So I think, as you can see, and it's in my report, I did account for $50,000. I'm not sure. I'm not the expert on what that study is going to cost. I know that was a number that was thrown around at the last meeting, and therefore that's what I have put in. And I am showing it 100% being funded from development charges, which would have come from developers. I'm not sure what other recourse we have as far as that goes, but that's what I have done at this point with the budget, is put that in there. I did confirm and have the discussion with our planner as well as Clark Consulting at one point, just to confirm that we would be able to take the funds out of development charges.
I have one more question, please.
Go ahead.
And I
Grit.
have one more question. When Bob Clark presented from Clark Consulting the development charges study, I questioned about how much could go towards the well from the development charges. And it really is up to a municipality to determine how much goes towards it. So can we not use more of the development charges to help offset, so we're not taking it out of the reserves? And it's not just developers that pay development charges. I guess as an individual person that built a house, we're considered a developer. Well, no, we built our house, but we had to pay development charges when we built. So, but anyways, coming back to that, is there no way that we can cover more than 81,000 so that the reserves can remain a little bit higher?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Stover, I know that there was a fair bit of discussion with Clark Consulting during the council meeting. I would say that he did partially say it is up to the township, but it still has to be considered. We have to be able to substantiate that amount. And his words to me outside of that meeting were that we should be looking at what the 10-year growth rate was and using that percentage to determine what would be considered, because this well project is not, I mean, it's a replacement well. We're not putting in an additional well because, you know, we're putting in 1,000 homes. this is a well replacement. So what he had said is, yes, is it going to service, future development? Yes, it is, but it also is servicing our current, our current residents that are on the water system. So, using the percentage of growth is probably the most reasonable way to calculate that.
So then I guess the next question would be, what will we use the development charges for then going forward that are remaining? And that will be increased when new development comes in.
And I think through you, Deputy Mayor Stover, that is something that probably needs to be further discussed among this committee. It also is something that I think we need to have a closer look at our current asset management plan as well, and determine, how do we get those funds out and being used towards development and capital assets that are part of our plan over the next 5, 10, 20 years.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Liam.
Thank you. I guess this is a discussion on semantics more than anything else, because when you talk about the water modeling study, and that shouldn't apply to us because we're already on a system. If it's said like that, then you can have the new users say whenever there's maintenance needed, oh, that shouldn't apply to us, we've got new pipes. So you can't segregate an argument that way. You can recover, but you can't segregate your argument. Right? I recommend that council look at talking about, in order for you to do your development, then we have to make sure that there's going to be adequate water flow to it, and this water modeling study is. And if council will look at, 150 houses to 200 houses, and say, let's collect X amount of dollars per house or lot or unit, then that will allow us to recover the cost of the study and allow you to do your development. I don't like the idea of that doesn't apply to us because we're already on the system. It creates an us and them, and it's creating, to me, creating an issue
Okay,
that the public can use.
okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Liam. Go ahead, Greta. Well, just one more comment and then we'll move on.
Yeah, a rebuttal to that. Development is supposed to be paid for by developers and the new people buying the homes. That's what development is supposed to pay for. And you yourself want to put in a development, or sell your land to a developer. The study needs to be recouped. The cost for that study needs to be recouped from development. So I would like to take your suggestion one step further, and we as a committee recommend to council that the developments coming in now, whatever this study costs, they will be paid. They will have to pay according to what the number of houses are that are going in, so that it's evenly spaced, I guess. Is that the way to do it? Evenly distributed amongst the number of houses per development, so that it's recouped.
So it's a recovery of costs. And I'll go through something like that as a recommendation to council who will have to make the final.
Right. I'd like to make that recommendation.
Would you like to make that motion?
Sure. Make a
Okay.
motion that the costs of the water modeling study be recouped from the upcoming developments that are going to be put in over the next few years. And do it per house, I guess, per
Okay.
house.
And would you like to second that? Or do we need a seconder for that, Madam Clerk? Would you like? Thank you. All in favor? Carried. I think that will be, bring that to a close. That part of it. And so, Nicole, do you have anything else for us?
Yeah, you're on mute, Nicole.
Sorry about that. I was on mute. No, nothing further, just the resolution to approve the budget to bring it forward to council.
Okay, thank you. Oh, one more before we go.
Yeah, one question to the actual budget. Since Bruce Heitkamp is here, through you, Deputy Mayor. Did you get anywhere with being able to cut back on the number of testings that you have to do over the year now? Are you able to go annually? The testing of the well that had
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
the B-Tex, that's
Yeah.
it.
So, yes, I did hear from the Ministry of the Environment, and they were happy with, they were satisfied with recommendations of scaling it back to what our normal program is. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Bruce.
Okay. Yeah, you're welcome.
So we will read, be it resolved that the Grafton Communal Water Committee approve the draft water budget number 2 and direct the treasurer to bring the final water budget for approval at the next possible council meeting. And further, that the Grafton Communal Water Committee receive and file the draft water budget to report. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Thank you, Grit. Grit moved. John second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We will jump down to number 7, correspondence from Larry Spirica, Manager of Water Capital Projects, Lucy, Reether Grafton Drinking Water System, 2023. Operations report, reporting period from March to April 2023. So I understand Larry's not here, but do we have somebody in Larry's place?
I can certainly speak to that, Madam Chairman.
Oh, thank you, Adam. Go ahead. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The report here, firstly, we have identified an error in the report. The maximum water daily discharge treated value for March 2023 should read 256.4. Is a decimal that was left out of the report. So that is a correction. Came to our attention a little late to refine. First item that we really should discuss is the fire pump discharge valve control solenoid failed May 9th during flushing and caused the discharge on the fire pump to remain in the closed position. Loss of pressure resulted in contact and notification to the MOE and the health unit. A boil of water was issued after restoring pressure and flushing. Boil water issued, 2 sets of samples returned favorably. The boil water was lifted May 12th, which is the report reached June 12th. So that is resolved, although we are still waiting for replacement parts for those the solenoid that controls that valve. Those replacement parts are unavailable within Canada, and they are being manufactured in Mexico. So we placed an order very quickly and still waiting for them. And the update that I've had was sometime in June, which is a staggering wait time, but that is what it is. In terms of hydrant flushing, we've undertaken but not completed that as the fire pump is still out of commission. So we'll complete that when we get it back up and running. We did conduct leak detection. We had Nickel Water Services in on the 25th and 26th to do a complete acoustic leak detection study within the system. And they did not locate any leaks whatsoever, which is good news. Ongoing items, the St. Mary's Cemetery service, we are still waiting on that to be repaired by Mr. Bain. So
Go ahead, Clerk.
Adam, the fire pump, to my knowledge, has been broken down 4 times in the last year. Is there something that we need to do to replace it, or, you know, what's the concern of the fire chief, because when the pump goes down, we don't have access to the hydrant?
It's my understanding that it has the pump itself has broken down twice. We had a short breakdown a little earlier in April where we tried to refurbish the parts to get them up and running. Prior to that, we did have a control failure and a loss of pressure, which was related to a UPS failure at the that was Christmas 2022. Sorry, 2021. I think it was December 9th is the date. That was a failure of a UPS for the controls there, for the controls of the whole plant. So the pump itself is in good order. It is seeing some mechanical, or not mechanical, control failures. So replacing the pump itself probably isn't going to yield us any benefit. We will look at modernizing the discharge control valve as an upcoming capital thing that may yield slightly increased reliability, but to be frank, the way to prevent losses of pressure and some of these problems are for us to be able to obtain parts in a timely fashion. We've never had parts be a problem before, and B, consistent losses of pressure that we have had. We don't have a water tower, so it is difficult to maintain pressure 24 hours a day at all times in the face of mechanical failures.
Anybody have any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Grit.
Yeah, coming back to the, through you, Madam Chair, coming back to the boil water order, I did not recall seeing
what I was
that.
gonna-
So was
I
the
was gonna ask.
township notification up on that? Because I don't recall seeing anything.
I don't either.
And I looked at the news items, it didn't seem to be there, so.
Area, was it not there, or,
Zone 1. I think it was Zone 1.
Yes, the boil water was exclusively zone 1, so the only affected properties were the MRF and the fire hall.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Well, that's comforting. I was thinking the same thing. I didn't get the notice.
Yes,
Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
so just, to make the committee members aware, if there is a boil water and it affects, if there is a boil water and it affects all of the users, then there would be given notices, they're put on your door, on the front door.
Oh, I wondered about that. Yeah.
So Lucy goes around door to door and makes sure that everybody is.
Oh, good. Thank you. I thought there would be something like that would happen. Go ahead, Liam.
Thank you. With regard to this pump that we've talked about, is that used jointly between the fire department and the communal water services, or is there something that's strictly communal water services?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
the fire pump is within the same building and feeds exactly the same water mains and exactly the same system. When flows are called for that are higher than the normal duty pumps, there's 4 of them within the plant that routinely provide water. When more flow is called upon and more than they can provide, the fire pump is then called upon by SCADA, and it goes into service to provide the additional flow. It's referred to as a fire pump because the only real time that we get high enough flows for it to be called on is in the event that a fire hydrant's opened in the system.
And just to
Go ahead.
follow up on that, then would it be prudent for fire department and this committee to look at upgrades to the system, is a nice phrase, to resolve this issue that we've had on more than one occasion in the last year?
Go ahead, Adam.
Certainly, yes. We have accomplished regular maintenance. The only thing left to do is replace the solenoid valves on that particular discharge for the pump. Additionally, we've been in conversations with our integrator to try and manipulate the logic on the controls to ensure that in the event that that fire pump fails to provide flow, and it may need some additional wiring, that the 4 pumps that are online remain on duty and provide reduced pressure within the system until the issue can be resolved, so that we don't have a loss of system pressure, just a reduction for the few minutes while if we happen to have a failure.
Go ahead, Liam.
One last follow-up. So it sounds like you're dealing with a Band-Aid solution, because this may help us get to the point where we want to be, versus a Cadillac solution. You know, like, let's put, if a recommendation could come from you to say, here's the Band-Aid solution that we're looking at, which should be good, and here's the timeframes, versus something more substantial or robust. And I think that would give more comfort to analyzing which solution would be better to refer on to council.
Go ahead, Grit.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Lucy, to Adam. Is this replacement plan not already built in, because you people are responsible for ensuring and helping with making sure the equipment's going to be replaced, and we're having some major replacements come up in 2025, I believe, or maybe even 2024. So is it already built into, like, our asset management plan, for example, for the water system?
Through the chair, certainly it is our responsibility to operate and maintain the water system in a prudent manner. And speaking to both comments, for now, the immediate repairs will be undertaken. The stocking of spares will occur. And in conversations with Mr. Spurka, who's the capital manager, he has indicated that he will look at the possibility of replacing that control valve moving forward in future capital planning. It hasn't been specifically identified in capital management plan because it is a small subcomponent of the overall pump. That having been said, in the absence of a water tower within the system, from time to time, you may well experience losses of pressure within the system. That is a risk that we run in the absence of that very large piece and expensive piece of infrastructure that we see in many systems.
I just have a question as well, Adam. Seeing that you mentioned water tower, and seeing that we could possibly be upping our numbers here in houses in the hamlet to the system, when would we start looking at having a water tower? Is there a house number? A number of users we should be looking at? So I would think in the hamlet, I wouldn't expect to have more than 200 more homes go on the system.
Madam Chair, I certainly grew up in a community that was smaller than Grafton and yet had a standpipe, a water tower, so to speak. It has been the recommendation, from my understanding, that recommendation has been made by Lucy from time to time, that we consider or look at a water tower as a longer term solution to consistent pressure loss within the system. If that is something that the committee wishes to instruct Lucy to explore or look at, we can certainly do that. In the past, we were given the instruction that it wasn't something that the Hamlet was going to examine at the time. So certainly, if that is a resolution, that the committee would like to grant, we can start to explore that.
I think, I'll go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Just to make the community aware, I experience in an elevated standpipe in $1.8 million.
For a tower. And are
Sorry,
there grants? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
If I could just interject, there are some of the members that are having difficulty hearing people. So
Oh.
if I could just make sure everybody has their microphones on and keeps them on, that way when conversations are had, they can hear.
Okay,
And
thank
just
you.
make sure the volume is up at a quarter notch. Nicole says that it was difficult to hear you. Yes.
Okay, Madam Clerk, would you like to repeat that?
So I just,
Thank you.
in a previous municipality, I was able to get a grant for an elevated standpipe water tower. And it cost $1.8 million, just so that you're aware that it's substantial money to build a tower as an elevated storage.
I didn't know it was that much, but I thought it would be over the $1 million mark. Is this a motion or that we would like to have Lucy look at the water tower? Go ahead, Grit, before we do that.
Yeah, I have a question first. Is this something that development charges could be used for? A lot more development charges, not just 4.5% of the cost.
Madam Chair, I can speak to my experience of the tower we're currently building in the town of Coburg, where development charges in terms of expansion for capacity for fire flow have funded some of that tower, as well as government grants, ratepayers, and there is an entire formula through the rate study that that informed that. So yes, there would be a component, and there is one in Coburg. That tower is naturally a great deal larger than would be required someplace like Grafton. I think we're looking at a number around the $15 million mark here, where Grafton.
What is it? What was it, Adam? Did you say 50 million?
15 is the number that we have in Coburg, but it is a very large tower. It holds more water than you would probably use in Grafton in 15 days. So it's enormous comparatively.
Go ahead, John.
So I'd like to also ask on this subject, since we just went through in the last couple of years getting a grant for a new well, can we look at getting a grant for an elevated tower? We put in, and I don't know what the process was, but somebody wrote up the request and put it into both provincial and federal governments, I hear. We got money from both for the new well. Can we take the same route for an elevated tower for Grafton to get a grant from them, which may take a couple of years? But I would also say we also may need Lucy to tell us what kind of money we would have to put in that request for a grant. But is that what, is that a way we might want to go?
Okay. Madam Clerk, would you like to speak to that?
So, yes, so usually the province and the federal government announces when there's grants coming forward. So the one for the replacement of the well, they had the Green 2 fund. They announced that it was coming out and they gave us the criteria of what it could be used for. It was for replacement. It was not for new, but there are grants that come up occasionally, and municipality is always looking at grants that come forward. And we do bring them forward to council to let them know that they are available. And if at some point in time down the road, this is something that council's interested in doing, then yes, if we were given direction, staff would go ahead and apply for funding.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Liam.
So if I could, to Lucy, please. It's always better to have a shovel-ready project for when financing
Yes.
funding's being announced. So is this something that we could prepare for on a relaxed basis over the next 6 months or so?
Go ahead, Adam.
Madam Chair, thank you. Certainly, this is something that could be prepared for over the next 6 months to at least have an idea of scope and pricing. In terms of preparation to undertake something like this, there is a significant amount of engineering and an EA process, et cetera, as we've seen through the well. It's more involved perhaps than even that. So in terms of scope preparation, you could have an idea of a direction and perhaps a dollar value and preliminary idea and what the construction might look like without a great deal of money spent. We would have to explore that with engineers, I would imagine, depending how far, how much the township would like to be prepared.
Would there be a dollar amount for that, Adam, to do the preliminary work?
I don't have a dollar amount, but I could probably reach out, since we've just done the similar preliminary work with SEMA, and at least get a very rough estimate, if that's the wish of the committee.
I'm wondering if this is something we could bring back to the next water committee. Would that be possible?
Certainly.
To the next meeting, I mean. And Madam Clerk, do we need any direction, a motion or anything?
Yeah, so if you would like Lucy to investigate the possibility of standpipe and what the costs. So there's the cost of actually doing the preparation work, and then the cost of actually doing the installation. So there'd be engineering and, as he said, environmental assessments and all those costs. So you would need a recommendation to recommend to council that you'd be given authority to Lucy to go ahead and provide some costs for your next water committee meeting.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a question before or?
No, I'll make a motion to direct Lucy to do a brief overview of what this type of project would entail for the next meeting, because there's no point in laying out money if it's something that in the overall scheme of things won't happen in the next 5-10 years. So I'm just a brief overview as opposed to really putting in a whole lot of time and energy.
I'll second that. Did you have a comment before we take a vote?
Yeah, the only concern I have is wherever you're going to put it, or would like to put it, you're still going to have to do some kind of soil study to say, here's what's going to carry the weight of all this water.
That's the next step.
Hmm?
That would be the next step.
Well, if you can't have anything close or reasonably economically close to where the pumps are right now, it may go out the window. So
Could you,
Feasibility of the project.
yeah,
are you good with the feasibility?
feasibility is great.
Okay, is that something you can assist us with, Adam?
Certainly, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a seconder for John, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
I just had a comment. Is this something that maybe Grant could help out with?
Okay, go ahead.
The feasibility of it?
Mhm.
Sure, yeah, we could help with that. I think Adam, if he's recently gone through one, it's maybe good to start with them, but we can certainly support that if needed, definitely. And I think another key consideration for a water storage facility is a location where the best place for it might be. Now, think here, fortunately, the treatment plant is at the high point, so, and there's a fair bit of property there, so that might likely be the most feasible location for it. And since it's at the high point, the tower may not have to be that tall, which helps as well. So we have some things working in our favor there.
Some options.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you. This will be exciting to, for us to,
Progress.
for us, yeah, will be progress. Okay, so I will, has everyone finished with the discussion? I'll read the resolution. Be resolved that the correspondence from Larry Spurka, Manager of Water Capital Projects, Lucy, Grafton Drinking Water System 2023, Operations Report, reporting period from March to April 2023 be received and filed, and further that the report be forwarded to Council of the Township of Alma-Calderman. Could I have a mover and seconder for that, please? Liam moves it, John seconded, all in
Question-
favor?
question
Oh,
before the
go
vote.
ahead.
We really only worked on the first item, so did
Oh.
Adam really want to go through any more? Is there anything else of significance on the report?
Thank you, Greg, for that.
Madam Chair, the information that I had imparted so far was the end of the pressing items that I had.
So I have
Okay.
one question then to the St. Mary's Cemetery Service through you, Madam Chair. This has been an ongoing thing for quite a long time now, and I think it needs to get some impetus to resolution because there could end up being a serious problem if we don't deal with it. I know we don't have a lot of rain right now, but heaven help us if we do. So can we get something moving on it? What do we need to do for that?
Go ahead, Adam.
Through the chair, currently direction was to allow Mr. Bain to do the work, and ultimately is doing it for the board gratis. So as a result, I don't have a great deal of control over his timing to do it. I will touch base with Mr. Bain and use what influence that I have to bring it to a resolution, understanding that it ultimately I can't compel him. If the board wishes to go in a, or sorry, pardon me, if the committee wishes to go in a different direction and decommission the service, by all means, I can certainly arrange that very quickly. But in terms of replacement,
Is there a lot of water being, I guess, leaked would be the word, at this location, Adam?
Madam Chair, currently there's no water being leaked or lost at the location. However, affecting the repair or replacement or decommissioning because of soil conditions there becomes much more difficult the wetter conditions are in the soil surrounding it. So seasonally, it can become all but impossible to dig there in the spring, whereas in the dry of summer, it is more manageable and more cost effective.
Would this be something we could bring back to the next meeting?
Brought
Oh.
it back, maybe.
Go ahead, Liam.
What is the risk to the system by having this remain as status quo?
Through the chair, over the shorter term, it is not a risk. It's a fairly small risk during the dry season until likely the last first week of September, when we start to see more fall rains, dry conditions through the summer. In the event that this lets go, we'll probably be able to get in and fix it. Fall, the risk increases, but this may stay as it is and not break for the next 5, 10, 20 years. I had one in this condition in town of Coburg that had been decommissioned like this in the 80s, and it finally sprung a leak 2021. So the longer it sits, the more risk there is. The wetter the season is, the more risk there is, but it's not a very, very pressing risk.
So would it be fair to maybe have you do an update at the next meeting? That'd be okay. Would you be able to do that, Adam?
Certainly, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much.
I have a resolution. I was just gonna make a question. Further on the discussion here. Can we not put some time parameters around it? For Bayhan, like get them to sort of commit in some way as to when they're planning on doing it, find that out? Rather than just have it open-ended, because if we have to decommission it, then that's something we maybe need to build in for next year.
Through the chair, certainly I have had those conversations ongoing with that construction company. And I have received timelines that have passed. And certainly if we want to decommission and fund that, I can make that resolution happen very quickly. But currently, while Mr. Bain is doing a replacement gratis, I'm not paying for it and I can't compel his timeline, which is a difficult position for the committee. And I can understand. I will certainly do my very best and set a deadline. And if the committee wishes to go in a different direction, perhaps at our next meeting, certainly I await more direction from the committee.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Go ahead, Grit.
So I guess the question that begs to be asked now is, if this thing lets go, how bad is it going to be? And is this then going to become an emergency repair that's going to cost that much more?
Through the chair, certainly if there is a failure here, it will be an emergency and there will be a larger associated cost. I rate that risk over the next 12 months as relatively low. If it was my system, town of Coburg, where I make those sort of decisions, I would take the risk and let it sit for a year, hoping that the repair is completed gratis. We're gambling a few thousand extra to probably get possibly against $10,000 worth of work being accomplished for us free.
Okay, thank you, Adam.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, you mentioned
Yes, a resolution to direct Adam to update the committee at the next meeting on St. Mary's Cemetery, sorry.
could I have a mover and seconder for that? Liam will
I'd
move
like
it.
to move that.
Thank you. It's between you two, John and Grit. Oh, thank you, John.
I've been doing too much. It's your turn.
All in favor?
Okay.
Carried. Thank you. Moving on to item number, I've got the 8.
Oh, now we have to accept his report.
Oh, we didn't accept his
Yeah.
report. Thank you, John. Bear with me. Have a mover and seconder.
We just need
to call the vote.
Okay, I thought I already did that, but thank you for that. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. So next we have item number, I got my numbers here, 7. Anyway, it's a report from Pat Kemp, the update on the well replacement. You've got the
Chair?
floor, Madam Clerk.
So I just wanted to, I've updated council and I'm updating the water committee on our replacement well. And we did have a startup meeting in March, and we also have a revised schedule, which was a concern by Mr. Robeck at the last meeting. And so we haven't spent significant amount of money yet because we were just starting the project, but I can tell you that we do have proposals due tomorrow at 2 o'clock. And that's for the actual drilling of the well. So we'll know once those proposals come forward, what the estimated cost is for that project.
Okay.
Excellent.
Does anyone have any questions for Madam Clerk on this topic? Now have a.
I do one.
Okay,
Just, has there been any preliminary work done as to where they're going to start to drill? Because it may not be the first drill that works, right?
Right. So that's part of the RFP that went out, that they have to look at the location.
So it'll be the company that does the drilling that does that?
They'll be looking at. that,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
exciting times. Go ahead, John.
So is there a new schedule?
Yes, it's attached to the report.
Okay. I didn't see it, so I need to.
Let's
Okay.
see. That's on page 25.
Drilling is supposed to start the end of August, correct?
So that looks like field investigations are. And the well, RFQ process is gonna start tomorrow.
Yeah, it's due tomorrow. They are.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any other questions for Madam Clerk on that? Be it resolved that the Grafton Communal Water Committee received the report from Madam Clerk dated May 16th, 2023 regarding an update on the Grafton well replacement project. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Grit moved, Liam seconded. Any other questions? All in favor? Oh, go ahead.
Just, you may want to ask if Bruce or Grant have any other updates.
Okay.
Okay,
Like
thank
part
you.
of The project as well.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Gentlemen, do you have any other updates on this you would like to pass on to the committee?
I don't really, I think Pat summarized it. We had a kickoff meeting. The engineer has prepared an RFP for well construction, and it's closing tomorrow. Maybe the updates. I don't know if I did ask if how many drillers are going to bid on it, and based on Greer Galloway, Tony, I think there's one definitely that's going to submit a bid. The other ones that I suggested he contact, I think one said that he was too busy. I think I gave him 3 or 4 names. And I think a couple said they're too busy. And so I think we might only get one bid, which is a little disappointing. I always like to get at least 2 to, for comparison. But it closes tomorrow. And if the bid that we are going to get, or probably going to get, they're a competent contractor. So we'll wait and see tomorrow how many bids we get.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. Grant, do you have anything?
Yeah, I guess maybe just a point to keep in mind, what was mentioned about the location of the well. And I think the way the tender was structured, that the township would have, once the location of the well is selected, that the township was going to handle, I guess, clearing a path and doing like a temporary gravel road for the driller to get to the site. I think it's likely where the well will be drilled will be sort of west of well number 2, so it's kind of in the bush there. So there will have to be some like physical work done before the driller can mobilize. But we have time. I think you said the tentative date for the driller to mobilize and start drilling isn't until the end of August, but it's just there's some physical site preparation work that'll have to be done before then.
Okay, thank you.
I could just add to that too. I did look at the area potential site. And there is a road that goes up to the there's a communication tower, and it seems like the pathway kind of goes into the bush there, and I could easily drive my pickup truck, quite a distance in there, but it would probably need just a bit of clearing in that, to give the driller a work, some working room, because his rig is certainly bigger than my pickup truck. But I think access is pretty good, but it is going to involve a little bit of assistance from the municipality.
Perfect. I think Madam Clerk is on that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, she's on it and that will be,
Is this something Public Works can assist with, or do we have a contractor we would be using?
It will more than likely be Public Works, our own force.
yeah,
Excellent, thank you.
in-house. Go ahead, Grit.
While we're talking about location of things, is it possible to revisit the, the request to get a tour of the facilities and also possibly the site where all of these things are? So that when we're talking, we actually know what we're looking at. I'd really, really appreciate that. I've got a mechanical background, so I'd love to see the plant. And when you're talking about the components and parts, just makes it a lot easier.
Is this a date where you could bring Madam Clerk some tour dates for us?
Or if, did you want to do it either before or after your next water committee meeting?
Sure, maybe before it. That would be,
Weather's good now.
yeah.
It is now.
I think we want to go after black fly season. Is that a possibility?
And who would be taking us? Would that be
We would
Bruce?
have Bruce and Larry and Grant available.
Perfect.
Oh, good.
So
So,
then what's available for them? If they could give us some dates, perhaps?
yes, could you give us some dates for that, gentlemen?
Well, here's my suggestion is that once the bids are submitted tomorrow, we select and the municipality selects a contractor. Maybe what we do is have a combo, like a kickoff meeting for that contractor. And then we could, then we have a stake in the ground where we want the well. And we could follow that up afterwards and have an open house, so to speak, at the pump house. So I guess to summarize it, I don't have an exact date at this point. I would just say June-ish, or probably June, in sometime in June.
All right,
Late June.
we'll wait for some dates and Madam Clerk will pass those on for us if you'd be so kind.
Adam has his hand up there.
Oh, sorry, Linda, I'm missing you.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to interject through you, Chair.
Go ahead.
I know that Troy had sent an email off to Larry at Lakefront Utilities to try
Okay.
and set up a future date for a tour of the facility. I hadn't heard a response and I hadn't seen a response, so I think Larry may be working on something as well.
Okay, perfect. We'll be there at some point in this year and maybe June or July. Thank you. All right. Oh, sorry, Adam.
That's all right. Madam Chair, to clarify, Lakefront Utilities has shared some dates and we can come up with some new ones as well. As a suggestion, I would consider that the committee, I would suggest that the committee consider extending the invitation to council as a whole, that if they wish to attend, that certainly they could.
Certainly, as soon as we get that date, we will
Post a
send
meeting.
it. We will send it out. And thanks a lot, gentlemen. That's very helpful. So I guess that just,
Take the vote on the motion.
yeah, take a vote on the motion.
Mhm.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. So next we have correspondence from Yolanda Melbourne, Deputy Clerk, read the communal water exemptions. Go ahead, Madam Deputy Clerk.
Thank you. Through the chair. So at the previous meeting held on March 15th, the committee inquired about exempted properties, and it was requested that an explanation of what an exempted property is be provided along with a copy of the bylaw. So when I looked a lot of this up, I found some past information from 2017 from Mr. Karatke, who was the clerk at the time. He was the deputy clerk at the time, the CAO and planner. He took a memo to the water committee of the day back in 2017 And within that memo, he provided the criteria used in order to determine if somebody should be exempted from the water service. The criteria was for health reasons, RE chemicals, fluoride. So back in 2017, that's what he wrote in his memo. So that's information that I just took. Lineal distance to existing dwelling, artesian well, financial hardship, not in service boundary area, and accessory building. So those were the criteria that council were to look at in order to determine if a property should be exempt. There was also resolutions passed as to the properties. At that time, there was 13 properties requesting exemption, and the following resolution was passed. That the bylaw from 1994 be reviewed, that further information be retrieved to amend the current bylaw then to address the 13 exempted properties. So what's happened now is we currently have two bylaws. One is 38-2021, which is our water rates bylaw. Within that water rates bylaw on Schedule C, which is attached, you will see that there is a list there of exempted properties from the communal water hookup. And it doesn't give reasons, but it just lists the actual properties. And also we have another bylaw, 132-2019, which is our water bylaw. There is a section in there that talks about exemptions, and it only basically says that by resolution of council, they may allow exemptions to the charges from time to time. So exemptions, usually when they come forward, they will come forward by way of a request by a resident through the community to the committee or to the clerk's office, which would then go to the committee. And the committee would determine whether or not they wanted to recommend them for exemption. That recommendation would go to council, and then council would give their final decision. If there is any questions as to the exemptions, I will take them.
Anybody have any-
Yolanda, just that one note that there is no fluoride in this system.
I know. That is the criteria listing that we have, and it may be dated, of course.
Yeah.
So there may have to be some, I guess. And there, another thing is that the criteria is not listed anywhere else. It's not listed in the bylaw. It's not listed anywhere. So if something like that needed to be revised or brought forward in, you know, future terms, then maybe it's something we could look at.
Go ahead, Grit.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you through you, Deputy Mayor. I agree with you, Yolanda. It does need to be revisited because I know I was involved with a resident that bought a home and was not told that they were supposed to hook up to the system. They were in the, they're on the rural side of, they're not actually the hamlet, they're on the rural side of Brimley Road. And so just as there are exemptions, as you know, and they were not able to get one. And I have proof from all of their records and everything, and I tried to work on their behalf. It became rather disconcerting for the group at the time. So I really think that we need to have something in the report or in our bylaw that actually lists the reasons for the exemptions. And there has to be, for the list of the names of the 13, there has to be the reasons listed somewhere as to why those people were granted the exemptions. Because the way it looks and the way it seems is that sometimes it's done on a favoritism, or it may appear to be, not that it's been done that way, but it could appear to be that way. And it should rather be, I think, legitimate. Because if someone's on a rural side and they didn't think they had to hook up to a water system, we need to have those things really cleared. So can we make an amendment somehow?
Actually, just more discussion on this point. When I severed off 3 lots to people who were going to build, under the understanding that they would hook up to municipal water services, was told by the county level, you can't do that.
Why?
Because you're not in the settlement area.
See, there you go. So why does someone have to hook up to it if they're
So
not in the
I
settlement
had to
area?
approach council to say, is there enough capacity to allow these lots to hook up? Yes. Would you like more users? Yes. So council made the exemption to allow those 3 lots to go on water service.
Because they wanted to go on.
Well, no, it just makes, instead of spending another 10,000 plus on a well,
Okay.
plus a study to, can you put a well there? It's, if you're not in the settlement area, you're not supposed to hook up to town water, even though the township wants to have more users. So it's a tough.
And this is something that I think really needs to be clarified because this was an issue for someone that is in the rural side. So
Yeah.
Okay, so then, what would we do, Madam Clerk?
Yeah.
Ask
So
that.
then
to-
you would need to.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Then you would need to do a recommendation to council that they review the current bylaws for the water system and ask them to amend them. And what we would do is we would give the water committee an opportunity to provide comments on it before it would be revised and sent back to council.
Yeah, so.
perfect.
Is that something someone wants to move? That recommendation?
It's definitely nothing we're going to accomplish here. It's just a recommendation to council and how quickly they want to move on that. But again, you're going to be dealing with on the rural side of the road versus the hamlet side of the road. You're still always going to be dealing with county who will quote the provincial policy statement. You're not supposed to do that.
Well, I guess it would just clean up the bylaw.
Yeah.
That would, go ahead, Grit.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, I think just because of the fact that there is development that's going to be happening and there is the potential for requests for expansion of the boundaries, which is going to affect those people that are rural.
Yes.
So perhaps we need to be a little forward thinking and start to get on top of it as opposed to have it all of a sudden just come up and punch everyone in the face.
Okay, so our recommendation, do we need a mover and seconder for that recommendation, please?
So.
Can you read the recommendation?
So,
Clerk, if you
Yeah,
could
yeah.
please,
Yeah,
whatever
you-
you've drafted.
so it's to recommend to council that the water connection bylaw be reviewed and revised.
And
Can be a little more specific.
Well, when we take it to council, we'll have a report going and explaining to them what the current bylaws are, where the areas of concern are, and then we would get your comments on it as well.
Okay.
So this is just to ask council to look at it, but we would bring a report before it ever went to council for their adoption to make any changes.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Grit. Could I have a seconder, please? Liam, thank you. Do you have a question, John?
I do have
Go
a
ahead.
question, sorry. When Yolanda, you were speaking there, I thought you said if someone wanted an exception, they had to come to this committee first and then go to council. Did you say that?
That's what's happened in the past. In the past, water committees exemptions would go through the committee first for committee consideration.
Which-
So the committee would literally listen to
This-
the person that
this
brought
committee-
it.
This committee.
This committee, the water committee. Yeah,
I haven't saw that happening in the last couple of years.
yeah. Back in 2017, at least it happened.
The one you were working on
Yeah, that
did
was
not come to this council, did not
pre-pandemic,
come to this committee.
Yeah, pre-pandemic.
pre-pandemic,
Yeah,
not just recent.
yeah, pre-pandemic, they would come. I, like you said, we haven't seen a lot of them. We haven't seen a lot coming forward. And the one that did, he did go through the committee. The committee was aware of it.
This committee.
Yeah,
Yeah, the committee was aware of it and it did go to council.
Is this process part of this,
Yes, it would be part of we would
you know,
review everything.
should it go to this committee first, then to council? Is that part of what we're recommending? here?
Yes.
Is that part of it?
Yeah, so
Okay.
you're recommending that council review the bylaws and revise them. But as part of that process, it would come to committee, you would make recommendations. then we would take that forward as part of the bylaw package, do a report to council so that you would have buy-in of what is suggested, and then council can say yay or nay.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Okay, all in favor with that? Carried, thank you. New business for, oh, go
Receive
ahead.
the report from the deputy.
Oh, yes, let me do that. Be it resolved that the Grafton Communal Water Committee received the report from Deputy Clerk Yolanda Melbourne dated June 1st, 2023 regarding the communal water exemptions. Can I have a mover and seconder for that, please? Liam and John seconded. Thanks so much. All in favor? Get some more people on this water committee. Okay. Now we moving to item number 8, new business for future discussion. Does anybody have anything?
Just
They
our
would-
tour.
Just your tour. I had the tour of the facility down, so it's nice to know that everybody's on it, and we'll be having a group tour. So seeing none, we'll move on to the next meeting. The next meeting of the Grafton Communal Water Committee will be, do we have any dates we would like to see that happen?
We're into July or?
Yeah, I know, we kind of threw around a July meeting or a September meeting, because August tends to be, people are away quite a bit.
Yeah, I think we were looking at July 19th potentially, which is a Wednesday. I didn't know if that was maybe too soon for everybody.
Might be.
It may not, because we will have some information coming back about the RFP and the
Okay.
well, and it may be timely to have it in July.
July
Sure.
19th is okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Gentlemen, is
Bruce?
that a good date for you? Like I see nods.
And
July
Nicole?
19th.
Nicole, is that good for you as well? Thanks so much. So, the next we have, so that's July 19th. And, motion to adjourn. Britt moves, Liam seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
Good job. Madam
Thank you,
Chair.
Nicole. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Madam